It started on a Tuesday morning at exactly 8:14 a.m. The world was spinning as usual, fueled by polite fictions and little white lies. But then a global silence fell. It wasn't a sound, it was a physical blockade in the throat of every human being on Earth. You tried to tell your boss you were happy to see him, but your vocal cords paralyzed. The neurons fired, but the lie refused to leave your mouth. The biological override had begun. Within minutes, the panic spread to the live broadcast. News anchors froze mid-sentence, their eyes widening in sheer terror as they stared at teleprompters filled with spin and propaganda. They physically could not read the script. In every newsroom from New York to Tokyo, screens went black or showed presenters gasping for air, fighting against their own biology. The truth was no longer a choice, it was a violent compulsion that shattered the broadcast signal.
Welcome to the Forbidden.
By noon, the silence had moved from the television screens into the living rooms. The social lubricant of civilization, politeness, had evaporated completely. Husbands looked at wives across breakfast tables, desperate to say, "I love you," just to keep the peace, but the words turned to ash in their mouths. They realized with horror that the biological blockade didn't just stop lies, it revealed the emptiness of their vows. Phone lines went dead worldwide. Text messages were typed and deleted 1,000 times. To speak was to detonate a nuclear bomb inside your own home. The paralysis hit the economy by early afternoon. In corporate offices, the hierarchy crumbled instantly. Employees stood up and told their managers exactly what they thought of their leadership. But the real silence happened in the stores. A car salesman tried to pitch a new model, but instead he pointed to the engine and whispered, "This is built to break in 2 years." Without the ability to deceive, the entire engine of capitalism stalled. The stock market didn't crash because of numbers. It crashed because brokers couldn't bluff. The sun set on a broken world, but the darkest hour was reserved for the capitals. Governments didn't fall to coups, they fell to silence. A president tried to assure the nation that everything is under control, but his jaw locked. He could only speak the terrifying reality, we have no idea what is happening. Diplomatic treaties burned as ambassadors admitted their spies. The architecture of power, built on secrets, crumbled into dust. By midnight, there were no leaders left, only frightened men in expensive suits. Weeks passed. The chaos subsided, replaced by a strange, heavy quiet. We learned quickly, if you can't lie, it is safer not to speak at all. Cities became as silent as libraries. Noise pollution vanished because 90% of human conversation was just fluff and deception. People walked with their heads down, terrified of being asked, "How are you?" because they would be forced to answer with their deepest traumas. We became a species of hermits. But in that terrifying silence, something rare began to grow: absolute trust. If someone spoke to you, you knew it was the ironclad truth. The legal system, as we knew it, ceased to exist overnight. Trials that used to take years were now finished in 30 seconds. Judges would simply ask, "Did you do it?" And the accused, trembling, would scream, "Yes," before they could stop themselves. Prisons filled up within days, bursting at the seams. But strangely, violent crime began to drop. Because you couldn't hide the intent. If you planned to hurt someone, you announced it. Criminals became scarce, not because they found morality, but because they lost the element of surprise. Then came what historians call the Sunday of Silence. Churches, temples, and mosques were packed deeper than ever, but not for sermons. People came to watch their spiritual leaders crumble live on stage. Pastors stood at altars, desperately trying to preach about eternal salvation, but instead, their biological override forced them to confess their own deepest doubts, secret affairs, and greed to the horrified congregations. The confessionals were emptied instantly. Why whisper your sins to a man who is shouting his own darker sins from the pulpit? Faith didn't die that day, but organized religion dissolved into a chaotic, global therapy session. But the cruelest casualty was romance. The dating industry evaporated instantly. Tinder profiles could no longer say, "I love hiking," when the user really meant, "I am lazy and depressed." First dates became traumatic interrogations. A man would sit down for dinner and immediately blurt out, "I am not listening to you, I am just staring at your chest." The woman would reply instantly, "I find you repulsive, but your salary is high enough to support my lifestyle." The dance of seduction was replaced by the cold, hard calculus of survival. Weddings were canceled by the thousands because no one could recite the vows without vomiting the truth. But amidst the wreckage of society, one sector exploded with terrifying speed: science. Freed from corporate greed, data manipulation, and grant-chasing lies, medical research advanced 50 years and 50 days. Cancer was cured on a Tuesday because researchers immediately admitted their failures instead of hiding them. But this progress came at a chilling price. Ethics evaporated. Doctors told terminal patients exactly when and how painfully they would die, while coldly recording the data. Humanity was saved by the very thing that cost us our souls: brutal, unfiltered efficiency. The next victim was imagination itself. Hollywood became a ghost town overnight. Why? Because acting is, by definition, pretending to be someone else. It is a lie. The moment a director shouted, "Action," the actors just stood there, frozen, unable to recite lines that weren't true. Cinemas closed down permanently. Libraries burned millions of novels because fiction was now classified as a biological error. Music lost its poetry. Lyrics became literal, boring descriptions of reality. The world didn't just become honest, it became unbearably boring and gray. Just like in the Prohibition era, a black market emerged. But they weren't selling alcohol, they were selling comfort. In dark, underground basements, desperate people paid fortunes to lie dealers. These dealers were junkies, pumped full of experimental drugs that temporarily scrambled their brains, allowing them to bypass the biological blockade. Customers would sit in dirty chairs, weeping, just to hear the dealer slur a simple, beautiful lie: "You are beautiful," or "Everything is going to be okay." It was the most expensive and addictive drug on the planet: hope. The silence hit the schools hardest. Teachers could no longer tell a struggling student, "You can be whatever you want." Instead, they looked at the test scores and said, "You lack the intelligence for this dream." But the deepest trauma happened at home. Children asked, "Was I planned?" And parents, fighting against their own tears, had to answer, "No, you were a mistake that saved our marriage." We raised a generation not on fairy tales, but on the brutal, cold, jagged rocks of reality. Childhood, as a sanctuary of innocence, was abolished. And then the internet died. Not the servers, but the soul of social media. Instagram and TikTok became graveyards of vanity overnight. Influencers who flaunted rented Lamborghinis were forced to type captions saying, "I am drowning in debt and deeply insecure." Beauty filters malfunctioned, revealing tired, average faces. The endless feed of fake happiness was replaced by a scrolling wall of brutal confessions. "I hate my partner. I am only posting this product for money. I am painfully lonely." Nobody wanted to scroll through reality. The algorithms collapsed because the only engagement left was pity. The most terrifying transformation happened on the battlefield. For millennia, warfare was based on deception, surprise, and propaganda. Overnight, that ended. Generals stood before their troops and couldn't promise glory. They simply said, 70% of you will die today to secure a resource supply line. Surprise attacks became impossible because declaring intent was biologically mandatory. War lost its mask of patriotism and revealed its true face: a cold, industrialized meat grinder where death was a statistical certainty, announced in advance. But the final battlefield wasn't in the trenches, it was in the mirror. The greatest lies we ever told were the ones to ourselves: "I am special, I am a good person, I matter." When those internal delusions collapsed, the global psyche fractured. The suicide rate didn't just rise, it became the leading cause of death worldwide. People couldn't handle the reflection of their own mediocrity, their past sins exposed without the cushion of denial. Humanity drowned not in water, but in the crushing weight of its own unfiltered reflection. Years dissolved into decades. Humanity survived, but we were mere ghosts in a machine, efficient, truthful, and completely hollow. We had absolute reality, but we had lost our souls. Until the anomaly occurred. In a sterile, silent nursery, a 5-year-old girl shattered a glass vase. When her mother rushed in and demanded, "Did you break this?" the biological override should have ripped a confession from her throat. But her neurons fired in a way not seen in a generation. The girl looked her mother dead in the eyes, a strange golden spark ignited in her pupils, and she smiled a wicked little smile. She said, "No, Mommy. It was the wind." The mother stopped breathing. The doctors who examined her later trembled in terror. The lie didn't kill the child, it crowned her. In a world of paralyzed truth tellers, she was now the only God. In the end, we learned a brutal lesson. Absolute truth didn't create a paradise, it created a prison. We need the little lies. We need the "I'm fine," the "you look great," and the "I love you" even when it fades. Because without the cushion of deception, the jagged edges of reality tear us apart. The girl with the golden eyes is the new beginning, or the end. If you want to see what she does next, and if you are brave enough to face the truth, subscribe to the channel now. Don't lie to yourself. You want to know.